Hey everyone, welcome to Founders 365 with me, Steven Haggerty. Today I am joined by Joey Berrios, who is the founder of Big Peach Marketing. How are you doing today, Joey?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm very good, man. You're joining me from across the pond, stateside. First and foremost, is it as crazy as it seems, or just as it is here in the UK?
I went to the store last week to pick up some minor things, and the bread section was looking pretty rough. The paper towels and toilet paper are pretty much all gone. The
Yeah,
meat section is faring pretty well. The problem is, like, as soon as they stock it on the shelves, people are there en
they're
masse,
just gone.
just grabbing everything. So,
Yeah.
ramen is flying off the shelf at, unbelievable rates. I mean,
It's
who
like
knew? Like,
it's
10
taking people
noodles.
back to their student days, right?
Yeah, basically, is what it's coming down to.
It's a weird time right now. But I wanted to get you on the podcast to talk about obviously websites and how people, because a lot of people are going to be looking at their website differently and looking at their online presence completely differently now. But before we jump into that, give me an overview of what Big Peach Marketing does and what you guys offer.
Sure. So the main premise is helping people get the proper online presence. So, a lot of people have websites, but they haven't been updated in maybe 10 years. That's worst case. Best case is maybe 5. I mean, if you do it right the first time, like we do, then it's good for a while. I mean, design trends change, but the biggest thing is, do I know who you are? Do I know what you do? And do I know how you can help me? If
Yeah.
those 3 things can't be answered within a few seconds, then it's kind of like, well, what do I do now? Especially if, like, there's no indicator that I need to scroll or anything like that. So the biggest thing is, in addition to those that I mentioned, is just good user experience.
Mm.
Am I able to navigate? Can I find stuff? Is it easy to download things that I need? Depending on what the industry is, right? So I mean, if I'm like in the medical field, like maybe an optometrist or something, that's going to function a lot differently than a DJ versus a photographer versus
Yeah.
somebody that has a restaurant. I mean, they all have different amounts of time that you need to really get the person's attention.
For sure. Would you say, well, first and foremost, would you say a website is an asset? Does everyone need a website?
I'm a firm believer that everybody needs a website, just because, if you do a basic search for anything, let's say you're looking for hamburgers or hot dogs or
I
tacos or
love a
anything,
hamburger right now.
so I mean, like, if you're looking for a good burger shop, they don't have a website. Are you going to go there?
Yeah, exactly.
I
It's
mean, just do your due diligence. I mean, even if it's just a single page with a few pictures of what you're doing,
mm,
that's better than nothing. I mean, obviously, you want to spruce it up a bit and have some good copy on there to make people interested. But
mm.
if you can't get to that level, just put a little something. Hey,
Oh,
we're Acme Burgers. We have 4 things and fries. That's it.
that makes a good burger place in my eyes. If it's simple, it's even better. But I see that a lot. I see people, especially with websites and their online presence in general, they sort of think it has to be this super complicated, website. And what happens is when they start overthinking, they never get it done, right? So they just wait and wait until funds are there, wait until whatever happening. In your opinion, in terms of the industry itself, what has changed over the last couple of years? Because now you've got, Squarespace, Shopify, Wix, I can't, WordPress, obviously. But I remember when I was doing website design 15 odd years ago, it was like
Right.
HTML from scratch, CSS,
Yeah.
PHP, using Drupal, which was like the worst, most annoying CMS system that was ever around. But what have tools like Wix and Shopify and Squarespace help your industry, or do you think it's not, or do you think it's hindered it basically?
Well, like you mentioned, 15 plus years ago, everything was by hand, right? So, I
Mm,
mean, like, I can remember in college, my boss came to me. So, how I got into this is how the story is going to go, right? So, he's like, hey, we need a way to track every computer that we get. Like, I want to be able to go to a page and punch it in and get stored somewhere, and I can call it up because I'm tired of using this Excel spreadsheet. I was like, so what do you want me to do? He's like, figure out how to build it. Do I get to use anything paid? He's like, no, it has to all be free because it's a university, right? They don't want to spend money unless they have to. So I literally taught myself HTML, PHP, MySQL, CSS, JavaScript, the whole 9 yards. And, I did that for about a year. And then, I shifted gears in what I was studying, and I took a bunch of computer science classes, which ended up being just a walk in the park. Like, one class I literally didn't go to unless I had an exam, and I got an A. because I spent so much time. Like, you could
I'm
ask
not sure if
me.
that's like shows how clever you are or how bad the class was.
Maybe both, I'm gonna say with the positive and say that I had the upper hand on that one,
Yeah,
but,
yeah, go
I
with that one.
remember, like, how painstaking it was because when you're doing it by hand, I mean, even if you do the proper mechanics of using, like, a style sheet, just constantly adjusting all the margin and the paddings and trying to get stuff on the page, it just is
Nightmare.
not efficient. You could use, like, Dreamweaver, I guess, and speed
Yeah,
that up a
that's
little
what I
bit,
used to use, Dreamweaver.
but you still have to push it to the server at the end of the day, and if for some reason something doesn't copy over or, there's some issue, things don't show up. Now, a lot of the systems are contained, which is nice. And the good thing, I'm not a big advocate for like Wix, but if you have to use it, I mean, most of the heavy lifting is done. You just drag and
Mm,
drop. And like I said, worst case, if you're super tight shoestring budget and you only have, $100, I mean, find someone who can whip it together. And if not, you can at least do it yourself. But, like when I do websites for people, it's a lot different because, the biggest differentiation between myself and maybe other agencies and tools is it's kind of a done with you business, right? Because there's three models. There is the done for you, which basically you
mhm.
hand me everything, I put it together, and now you have something to work with. There's the do it yourself. Maybe you don't want to spend money or you just want to, have control, whatever
Yeah,
your cup
the
of tea is.
Squarespaces of the world.
Right, and then you have the done with you, which is a lot of times it's a combination of either we sit on a screen share and we just design it together. So I start out with like a framework of some kind, like maybe a base template. It's like, okay, here's how the layout would look. Now, what do you want to keep? What do you want to
Mm.
throw away? Like I did it last night with a client of mine. We sat there for about 2 hours and got all of her pages mocked up. So all I have to do now is just go build them.
What's the benefit of you doing that? Is it so that your clients can learn and they're not so lost? Because I find that as well. You hear a lot of horror stories where people go, "Hey, I've got this website designed," or these businesses have got these websites designed, and then the designer vanishes, right? Or their agency goes bust, or something horrible happens, and they're just stuck in this limbo mode because they have no idea how to do it. But I guess if you're there showing them and teaching them along the way, it gives them confidence in what you do more. It values your time a lot more, in my opinion. Is that what you're finding? Are you finding people enjoying that process?
I think so. I mean, again, to your point, it does give them the tools because, like I ask everybody, how deep do you want to go? Do you want to just, take a little sip of the tea or do you want the whole cup? Like, and
It's
once we
like it's
have
like you're trying to get someone addicted to drugs.
I mean, all business is drug dealing at the end of the day. You have
Wow,
to
that's what they
provide
say.
something, people want it,
Yeah.
but I mean, to get back on track, basically, I give them the tools. So if they want to know how to do it, they get the very baseline. Now, here's the thing. I'm teaching them what they know. I'm not
Mm,
teaching them everything I know. So if they want to know more, that's where, the price tag increases because now we're
yeah.
spending lots of time together. But, on average, I feel like within, you know, let's say 4 hours. So if we have, 4 1 hour sessions, in those 4 hours, people know enough because it's, they can ask questions, they can see everything in real time versus
Mm,
like I went to YouTube and just for, I call it shiggles for shits and giggles, right? Like I went on there and I put in how to build a website and, you get all kinds of time frames. You get 5 hours, 3 hours,
yeah.
45 minutes. Like there's no consistency. And so I'm watching and they're going through everything. Here's how you buy a domain name. Here's how you buy this. I was like, how do I get to just when I have it all, putting it together? Let's
Yeah.
say I do
How do you
Wix.
join the dots?
Yeah. How do I connect the dots? And so, I actually put together like a short little series. I'll probably re-record it because my computer had some problems, but I finished it in about 45 minutes or less. And that was everything. That was like
Yeah.
your terms and conditions. That was your privacy policy, logo, whole 9 yards. Like every
Everything people need to get started.
yeah, every module was about 5 minutes, and I was like, "There's no reason why this has to take a long time." I mean, I can
But
literally.
this is why you're the expert, right? It doesn't take you a long time, but it takes a lot of people a long time to do things
But
because
people don't understand that, so they're like, "Why are you
yeah,
charging $10,000 for a website?" I was like, "Because it's
exactly.
going to be done right, first of all, and then
It's
secondly,
like
no
that
one's gonna do it."
that famous picture, isn't it, with the huge ship engine and the old man comes along and it's been broken for months and they've had loads of people do it and this old man comes along and with a little hammer and just taps the right bit and sends him an invoice for 10,000 and he goes, look, you're not paying for the hammer, you're paying for the 50 years of experience.
Right.
That's what I find, like with your work, especially website and graphic design and marketing in general, it is on that level. It is the fact that, look, they're paying you good money because you're the one that's going to be able to do it quicker, better, and everything else, which is the interesting side of things. Let's talk about the current worldwide situation, the zombie apocalypse that is incoming, the end of the world is near, the end is near, all these sort of things. You know, in terms of website presence, lots of people are now going to be thinking, I need to improve my online presence. I need to be doing more with my website, right?
Yeah.
For you, what is some of the things that are like the glaringly obvious things that you see most often that people just are not doing, that they can probably look into their website now and be like, yeah, I need to do that?
So number one is page speed load time. Google definitely favors mobile first. So, like you'll see people in different groups that I'm in post, oh, my page speed is this, but they're doing it on a desktop. Now,
Yeah.
keep in mind, like an LTE or a 5G connection is going to be much slower. So you should probably multiply that by like 4 or 5 to get a real time, right? So like if it takes 5 seconds on a desktop, it's probably 20 on a mobile. Now that may not be entirely true, but we could split the hairs and say 10. Are most people going to wait 10 seconds? Like I get that you need to just execute and move along, but at the same time, people like to talk about how every second that it takes, that's tens of thousands of dollars, depending on what your industry is and what you're selling. If you're selling high ticket widgets and, it's taken 20 seconds, well, this guy over here, it takes 5. I'm going to go buy from him because I'll have
exactly
15 seconds, so that's the biggest thing. The easiest thing that everybody can do that pretty much doesn't require like very much skill is just assessing how fast pictures load. So, if you notice it's taking forever, like if you remember back on dial-up, you try to go to a web page and like the picture's just, slow.
It was almost like it was being printed as you want.
Yeah, basically, if it's doing that, chances are it's about 4 megabytes or more. You can go and shrink that down to where it's maybe a couple 100 kilobytes, and then boom, now you're getting instant performance. I mean, if you just resize all your photos, you'd probably see like a 30 to 50% increase in performance, because most people are just taking the highest resolution picture, slapping it in there. I mean, a lot of them are just downloading it from a stock photography place and just putting it right into the site. They're not trying to do anything. And then they're like, why is it so slow? Because you have 80 pictures, they're 10 megabytes each. You're loading 800 megabytes on something.
Why is my hosting provider sending me a huge bill?
Yeah, basically. That's another thing. Hosting providers, a lot of people favor the big names they're familiar with, like GoDaddy and Bluehost, because a lot of the thought leaders and people in the space like to promote it because they pay a good affiliate commission. Like Pat Flynn, he pushes Bluehost a lot. Bluehost is trash. You should not use it. Now, if you buy the cloud service, maybe that'll get you by, but there's much better ones out there. You could use like Kinsta or WP Engine. I personally use Cloudways. There's a bunch out there that are much better. That are dedicated. A lot of people get shared hosting, so it's like living in an apartment complex. If one person has a problem, a lot of times other people have problems. So like if you do something to kill the power on your end, chances are everybody else is going to lose power too, right? So,
exactly.
It's not necessarily going to happen, but the probability is there. Also, they won't upgrade stuff on time because it impacts everyone. So, for the technical people listening, the PHP version, a lot of people are still using 5.6. The current version is 7.4. Why are we so far behind? But if they upgrade it, it'll break a whole bunch of other sites that are sitting on that server that are running on the old version.
It's like they're in too deep to do an upgrade.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those, what is it? There's a picture of a mouse trap and there's like 8 mice around it and they're all like smashed by the little bar. It says share the victory, share the defeat. It's a very similar thing with the shared hosting, like when it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's bad. But dedicated hosting, it's like owning a home, like nothing's going to happen unless you did something to it. So you're completely isolated, which is great. But at the same time, it costs a little more. But people are like, oh, $10 a month for web hosting. That's absurd. I'd rather pay 2. But then they cry because the performance sucks. So, you got to choose. It's the same thing with money. Being rich is hard. Being poor is hard. Choose your heart. You want to cry in a Lamborghini or cry in a box? Like it's the same. You just got to choose. What do you want your heart to be? I'd rather pay $10 a month and get good service versus 2, and I'm just like wanting to throw my computer against the wall all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Because of current situation and lots of people are looking at their websites in different ways, is it too late for those businesses that are perhaps don't have an online presence as much as they want to, or a community as much as they want to? Is it too late for them to start now? Have they missed that hurdle, or should they just be doing it now? Should they be just jumping on this?
I mean, what's the saying? You know, the best time was yesterday. The second best time is today. Like websites, I mean, there's so many websites. As a matter of fact, today, one of my clients called me. He's like, hey, I'm putting together a guide for seniors. You know, they're in like assisted living, or maybe, you know, they're getting older and maybe about to be in assisted living. It's going to be stuff that helps them not get COVID-19 or any, you know, form of the
Mm-hmm.
coronavirus. So we tried to buy a domain like Corona Senior, you know, tips or something. And we couldn't buy the domain because it's a flagged word.
Yeah,
So he's like,
it's
okay,
like
let's
15
do
grand
something
or
else.
something.
Yeah, well, we found an alternative. And so now, you know, this is going to be a little landing page with an ebook that you can download for free that teaches you things you can do if you're older or know someone who's older that, you know, keeps them safe, because we don't
Mm.
want anything happening to them. But, you know, like if you go onto any, you know, you could buy domains to GoDaddy. That's fine, but don't get hosting. But if you went to GoDaddy, Namecheap, whoever, and you just punch in some random domain name, chances are it's probably free. If the .com is not available, choose something else. If you don't want
Mm.
that, then find a variation. But, you know, if you like, you know, get your ducks in a row, you could easily get something together by end of the week. Now, keep in mind, it may not be great, like as far as a visual, but, you know, I mean, the tools are good enough. It's not so rudimentary like in 95 where you're
Yeah.
using, you know, front page on your Windows 95 or 98 computer, you know, putting stuff together. Like it's literally drag and drop. The thing is, people aren't designers, so, you know, it may not look great, but I'm probably going to take the guy with a crappy looking website versus the one who doesn't have one at all. Now he can
Well, there we
help.
go. Right. That's the point. You know, it's better to be in the room and you know, miss a shot than not be in the room at all, I guess.
Yeah,
In
basically.
some assets. But also, you know, because so many retail businesses are being affected by COVID-19 and all that kind of stuff. You know, this is where the places like Shopify or WordPress with WooCommerce sort of added onto it can really help them make sure that they can still, you know, pay staff, pay warehouse fees, whatever those fees are. They're in a position which you can get online presence set up literally, like you said, in a week. But I would even argue that I'd say you could probably get it done in 24 hours if you're like really on it, right?
Right.
For those sorts of people that are in that, I don't want to use the word desperate, but I just did. So in that desperate phase, what's the best route for them? Is the best route for them to go just, you know, get something on through Shopify or do that, or go down that sort of WordPress with WooCommerce or some other e-commerce platform attached to it? What's the best route for them, do you think, in this particular time? Obviously, it's not perfect situation.
So I guess I'll preface it by saying let's rank their skill levels on 3 levels, you
Sure.
know.
Let's have
So
like the 20-year-old skateboard shop owner. I mean, that's such a generalization there, right? We've got like the 40-year-old I don't know, optician, and then we've got the 60-year-old Deirdre who just has a sewing shop.
right. So, you know, I'd say anybody that has any kind of technical background and you want a little more control, WordPress gives you that if you want to save time, because both of them have, you know, a learning curve. If you've never done anything, both are going to take the same amount of time. I think WordPress is probably going to take a little bit longer just because there's some
Mm-hmm.
nuances. But either way, you know, if you don't have a product that you're going to sell, I guess you could still use Shopify. I mean, the whole premise is e-commerce. So if you're not
Yeah.
going to be doing e-commerce, let's say you're a roofer and you just want to be able to schedule, you know, people to come do roof inspections or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would probably do Wix or something like that. You know, I mean, even Squarespace, just whip it
But
together
aren't
real
the
quick.
rumors that Google hate Wix? Are
I
they not
mean,
true?
I personally don't like it. Almost every Wix site I've seen has been pretty terrible. I would take
Mm.
Squarespace over Wix, but again, you know, depends on, I guess, your budget. I mean, they both charge different things. They give it to you for free, you know, in some way, but then you pay for it on the support. I think that's how Wix gets you. So Wix
Yeah.
is either cheap or very low cost, but the support's expensive and it's not really worth the money.
But
Um,
Squarespace is so simple. I mean, I've played around with Squarespace myself, and it is literally the most simplest drag and drop you can do. I think the downside to Squarespace is you're fairly limited on designs, but that might have changed in the last 12 months because I
Yeah.
don't have
I
played
mean,
with it.
personally for me, I'm a WordPress and Elementor kind of person. You know,
Yeah.
people will flame it and say, "Well, you're not a real designer if you use Elementor." It's like, look, I'm not creating design, I'm building something. There's a difference.
But it's also like, why spend your time and energy coding something from scratch when there's an amazing solution right in front of you that you can use?
When I first got started, like 5 or 6 years ago doing WordPress, there was no page builder really. I mean, it was
Yeah,
pretty much just, like the theme. Everybody still is like hung up on the theme because that's how it used to be. But if you use Elementor, like you can literally set the mode to canvas, meaning like the whole page just takes over. There's no
mm,
header or footer, and you can build it all out yourself. You can build out your navigation menu, whatever you want. And if you want to write HTML because you're self-hating, you can do it. You can put in a little widget for
you
HTML.
want to make your life harder? You can do that. It's really
Yeah,
easy.
basically. But the nice thing about Elementor is there's a bunch of different little widgets for stuff.
Mm,
And like if you get the pro version, their form integrates with Zapier. You can use webhooks to do all kinds of stuff. I mean, so if I were to build a page for somebody, I would use one form that would push to your telephone, it would push to your email, it would push to a spreadsheet or another kind of CRM. I mean, if you use something like Pipedrive, then what you can do is you can drop it in there and say, okay, every new person that comes into here is worth like this much to me, and then the
yeah.
call would be scheduled to something like Calendly. And depending on how it goes, I can move them along and track, how much money I have going in any given time. If I have 10,000 in proposals or 10,000 people, or sorry, like 10 projects that are worth like 20,000 each, like you can see along the whole sales process from, they're newly acquired to they're still trying to figure it out. But,
Mm,
regardless of the business, the industries aren't really putting out enough like top of the funnel level stuff. So like the
yeah.
awareness level, everybody's like, in your face, buy my thing, buy my thing. Like sign up, go to any website and sign up to get the downloaded free thing. What happens later? 50,000 buy my thing emails, which
I have a specific email address I use to just do that stuff, so I
like
don't
if
ever.
you go to my website and you book a time with me, you will not get any emails unless I choose to send you one. Like you'll get the initial, hey, go click this to book a time with
Mm,
me and get the, whatever thing that's associated with it. But that's it. You won't see like 3 days later, hey friend, I saw that
yeah.
you came by my website. It's so great that you stopped by.
Here-
Let's do
Here's
A,
the
B, and
it's
C.
a great point you brought up though, because do you think people are getting tired of that samey blueprinty marketing method that you do see all the time? Like you see the emails and it's like, "Hey Steve," and you just think, "Oh, it's just automated." Like you haven't that you're not saying "Hey" to me. You're just saying "Hey" first name. Do you think people are seeing through that now?
It's hard to say because I'm not in everybody's shoes, but I know that personally, when I first, like I said, I got started about 5 or 6 years ago, I took a year before that to really just understand, marketing and what people are wanting and that kind of stuff. And almost every place I go to, especially like, I don't want to be like sexist, but a lot of women's websites are the same. They have like the
Mm,
chevrons and the arrows and the feathers and, like the peaches and pinks and those, like it all looks the same. It's just a rehash. It's like going to a neighborhood where every house looks the same. There's no differentiation. And then they're all offering the same type of thing. Get
yeah.
my free ebook on how to make something in your Instant Pot. Get my free ebook on this thing. And like it's almost like they take it and just add two new things. And then
Yeah.
that's
I
their
mean,
differentiation.
I'm a firm believer that the ebook phase is dead. I don't think I don't think I've even ever read an ebook that I've downloaded just to, even though I was interested in the information. I don't think I've ever read it.
I
It
mean,
just
there's a bunch that I've downloaded. I mean, I have a bunch. So Duct Tape Marketing was one that I read a whole bunch from. They have pretty good ebooks, but they're pretty like thick. They're like
yeah,
50 pages, and a lot of it's graphics. So that's useful. But I mean, if you're gonna make an ebook, then make it worth the person's time. So like
yeah.
if you
Make it actually worth $20 that you're giving away for free, rather than make it a free thing that
so
basically has
the,
been
the
regurgitated.
the proper model, and this is borrowing from digital marketer, is if you were to join the DM lab, it's like $30 a month and you get access to their whole library of courses. So the way that
Mm,
they get you is they have the library, that's like the top highest thing they want to sell. There's some higher level stuff, but that's their bread and butter. So what they do is they take one course out of that. So they scale down to one course. And then
yeah.
what they do out of that course is they take maybe a small like 5 minute video to kind of give you a high level of what you're going to get if you take the course. And then out of that, they strip it down even further to like 10 hot points of why you want to do this thing. And then
So
that's what they offer.
they're hitting everyone basically.
Yeah, because like if you're going to do it, that's the model. Like a very
Mm,
quick win. Like what's the thing? How do I get X without Y?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what you want the first level thing to be. And they're like, okay, I'll bite. So then they download the free thing, and then you just leave them alone. And then you watch the 5 minute video and get a little more information to kind of get an idea. And then
mm,
you decide, okay, I'm going to buy the one course. And you're like, huh, this was actually really useful. I'm interested in learning more.
Yeah.
Now I'm probably going to be inclined versus, hey, thanks for buying my free thing. It's like if you're trying to go out with somebody, if you're constantly like blowing up their phone, like, hey, you want to go out with me?
Hey,
Hey,
what you doing? What you doing? What you doing? What you doing?
yeah, basically, like it's not having self-control. And I get, like there's a timetable, but the thing is, an example, I just picked up a client 2 years ago. We first crossed paths. She posted on
Mm.
Facebook, hey, can somebody help me with this? Sure, what do you need? And she like didn't respond. And then like 6 months later, can somebody help me with the same thing? So I like messaged her again. I was like, hey, do you still need help? And this went on for like 2 years. And then finally, we had a conversation. Like, I've been like trying to track you down for 2 years. And so now, like, she's a retainer client,
Yeah.
and it's just wild to think like it took 2 years, but at the same time, like I just sent her a message like, hey, can you explain to me what you need help with? And like when she would have time, she might like throw something, but then like 6 to 8 months would go by. I mean,
She
I
was
hear
just
from her
teasing
again.
you, man. She was just teasing you.
Yeah, and so like that's how businesses kind of need to be. I mean, some things are urgent. A good example is there's a house in my neighborhood actually this morning that caught fire.
Wow.
And so like they're gonna need all kinds of different stuff. So depending on the industry, they could definitely help in some capacity. That's a little more urgent than like
Mm.
I want to buy the new Yeezys, but I don't know anything about it. Let me go read on it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That's a lot different. Like you got to know your vertical, and if you don't, then that just makes it really hard to sell to the
exactly.
person.
I just want to touch upon this briefly as well, because you mentioned it. CRMs, how important are they for businesses to work with their website and work with their customers?
So for every person that comes to your site that chooses to opt into something, you should dump them into some kind of CRM or an email list at the very least. If you don't want to spend money, just put them in a Google Sheet. It
Mm.
doesn't cost anything, and at the
Use
very
HubSpot.
least,
It's free. Well, they've got a free version.
yeah, I mean, something this basic, and the whole premise is that now you have their information, and obviously there's tools out there that can analyze that and figure out
Mm.
the demographics, so you can do some advertising later. But even if you don't immediately reach out, let's say you give it a whole month, you come up with an idea. You're like, I'm gonna put a landing page, give this opt-in thing. I'm just gonna have people download it, and let's say 40 people download it, and then you figure, okay, well, let me send out something and get some more interest. And eventually it'll kind of whittle down to maybe like 10 to 15 people. Because regardless of whatever you do, only 5% of people are going to buy something immediately. 45% are on the fence and need a little encouragement. And then 50% are probably never going to do anything. So it's like
Yeah.
immediate money, and then coming soon money, and then someday money.
Yeah.
The someday money,
And the biggest mistake most people make is they spend too much time on that 50% that will never buy from them.
right. And some of those people will convert over time, but most people, it's kind of like when you're driving down the road, you might see a bagel shop you've passed 1,000 times, but are you going to go in? I mean, are you really hankering for a bagel? You might be, but you might not. So if you decide to go in,
Salt
it's
beef
the same
bagel.
premise. But I mean,
Yeah.
people that eat bagels on a routine basis are probably going to be there without thinking twice. So it's just it's all relative. You just got to figure out who's the
Yeah.
person.
Exactly. Now you've made me want a salt beef bagel with gherkins and mustard. So thanks for that, Joey. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I always keep you hungry.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you hook me. You just know, like, oh, Steven's going to be hungry, so I'm going to talk about food, and then that's going to make him want a bagel. But listen, one of my final questions to you is what I ask everyone, and let's make it so that it can help people in this current situation that a lot of people in. And you kind of gave three earlier, but I want you to give a different three, and that is three things that a business owner can be doing to make their web presence better.
One, just talking about it. Like if you don't even mention your website, no one's going to even go to it. Like
Mm,
people ask me, what's your website, and then I'll give it to them. Like I once spent like days building out portfolios with all kinds of details. No one ever looked at it. So now I have one page with a button that you click, and it says, hey, you want to book a time? Cool. And then you do it, and then we talk, and that's it.
yeah.
Super simple. The next thing is, if you don't have a scheduler like Calendly, go pick one up, because if you're going to be booking times with people, you need to manage it. You can't have 80 appointments in one day unless they're very short, like 10 minutes. Most like
Even
regional.
that, it's not technically possible, is it?
Yeah. I mean, unless
Oh.
you didn't sleep, I don't know, or
Yeah.
at one time, but that way you can kind of keep track of who you talk to, when you talk to them. If you want to be paid, you can pay to have that feature. And then I'd say probably the third thing is, if you're not using at least a spreadsheet to track people that download your stuff or that you interact with, because
Mm.
I have spreadsheets for everything. I have spreadsheets for like my finances, stuff for my business, my clients. If I email them, when I email them, how many times I've emailed them, if I spoke to them on the phone. Like you can't, what gets, what gets measured gets managed. If you
Yeah.
can't measure it, you can't manage it. Like you don't have any data, you can't do anything with it. So, those are the things I would probably recommend to people to do that would give them some immediate wins.
Exactly. And that's it, people. It's about really looking at your website, really looking at your online presence and see what wins you can get. Because I guarantee that, even myself included, like every single person, even probably you, Joey, like every single person can still improve their web presence, right? It's like there's not one person sitting at the top and they've got it figured out. That just doesn't exist. Everyone's always improving, and I think that's the key. It's about showing up, improving, looking at what's working, and obviously looking at what's not working. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's a fair statement.
Good man. Joey, listen, thank you so much for being on Founders 365. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, speak about their web presence, speak about whatever it is, website galore with you, what's the best way for them to contact you?
They can email me at joey@bigpeachmarketing.com, or just go to bigpeachmarketing.com, facebook.com/bigpeachmarketing. I don't do any other platforms because I don't really need them, but maybe one day I'll get on there, but those are the three best ways.
No, that's it. That's perfect. Joey, thank you so much for coming on. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks everyone for watching. It's been Founders 365 with me, Steven Haggerty, joined by Joey from Big Peach Marketing.